Welcome to another Cinema 4D tutorial. Just want to show you guys how to make some pretty quick low poly cars, as well as how to just quickly texture and material them without having to do a ton of cuts to create polygons for adding your materials. Um, so we're going to use a little bit of body paint as well to get the car looking the way that we want. But we're just going to start really simple. This one might be so simple that it's boring, but I think that it might be useful for some of you. So there's really two ways to do it. If you want to make a really official looking car, there's sort of this process of having a cube and then utilizing a symmetry object and doing a lot of different cuts, loop cuts to begin to kind of clay, what's the word I'm looking for? Clay form your model and make it look like a real car. But in this case, we just want something for a fun game. Maybe we're making a VR game and we want something very basic. So we're just going to stick with the cube and we're just going to bring it in here and kind of resize it, and we're going to just make kind of like a standard, very basic little truck here. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this thing editable, and we immediately have one side to each of to this entire cube, and we're going to pull out this a little bit, so we're making kind of our windshield. Resize that and size it down. Maybe go a little further out like that. And then we're going to pull the front of it out a little bit and maybe resize that down a little bit. Something like that. So that's kind of like the front end of our truck. And we could get a little bit more crazy, but remember, we're just doing low poly here. And the back end of our truck, we'll pull this out a little bit, and I guess we'll just kind of create a back slope for it. Maybe it's like a garbage truck where it kind of has that big lower end. Maybe we will just give it like a bumper though. So let's create this, size this way down, and we'll just create kind of like that garbage truck look like that. All right. So we could probably do a lot more to this. But the first thing we're going to do to make it low poly is we're going to get rid of our Fong tag, and it immediately just kind of takes on a more boxy shape. All right. Not much to it. Doesn't look like anything. And what we're going to do next, before we get to any wheels or anything like that, is I'm just going to head into our BP UV edit and then our paint wizard. So we have the cube object selected. We're going to go in, uncheck single material mode, and then we are going to hit next and finish. All right, and we are now ready to start painting our truck. So the best way to think about this is always start with the biggest layers first. So if we want this truck to be a big green garbage truck, we're going to get real big with our size. Kind of find like something like that. And we're just going to paint this thing. I guess that kind of looks more army than anything. But we're going to give it a nice big green color. All right. Moving our way inward, we're going to want to up the hardness a little bit. Reduce the brush size. So now I need to make a big old windshield. So with the paintbrush settings, you have the option between a circle and a rectangle. So we're going to go rectangle. And we're going to size this up until we see a good shape for our windshield. And we're just going to hold that down. Oops, we got to change our color to black. Hold that down and just kind of gently go across. And we've got a front windshield. And then we've kind of got our garbage truck rear here. And we're just going to kind of blacken that whole area in. Like so. So it looks like an opening to our garbage truck. And again, you know, the nice thing about low poly is it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, these are going to be like just little objects, little game objects that people don't pay a ton of attention to. And this also saves you a ton of data. So I guess we'll just put a side windshield there. That's horrible. Probably better off just finding a size that works for the whole thing. Maybe something like that. And something like that. Okay. It's, again, this is horribly ugly, but just want to give you the idea of kind of the way you can quickly turn this into a combination. So coming back into what we're looking at here, we've created this little garbage truck. So I could do some other things too, such as going back to my shape, creating my circle, and let's pull this up, and then coming in here and finding a nice bright yellow, resizing this a little bit, and just getting a nice big, not big enough, really big kind of front end headlights, and then maybe another little smaller version with some red, something like that, just below it. Give our little, it's too small, a little turn signal or something like that. And I'll probably go back and add a bumper there because it's not really looking so sharp. And then I'll come into my back bumper and I'll add some taillights there. You'll notice how the shape here on something that I've not messed with, which is the side of this cube, is one size. And then if I go in and look at something like this that I completely stretched out, my circle brush is also going to get stretched out just like that. But regardless, that's kind of what we're looking at. Very ugly looking little truck. And we're going to come back in here to our startup. I'm going to go back into polygon mode here, and you'll notice now I've got a nice texture. It's not going anywhere. So if I want to do any kind of changes to this, I'm going to have to do an extrude, but you'll notice it's just going to follow. So what I've noticed is I should have probably made my bumper first before I did anything, but it's kind of too late for that. So the only other option I have really without destroying my model is to kind of come in and create another cube, but I'm not going to mess with all that. The final thing I'll do for now is I'll just come in and I will grab a cylinder and make sure that's on the right axis I want, and I'm going to make that editable right away. And then we're going to resize this and start making our wheel, because maybe this will actually start to look like something that isn't just a horrible truck, which is currently what it looks like. Starts to look, that looks a lot better already, just having one wheel on there. I'm not going to paint my wheels because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I am going to come in here and do one little inner extrude. Oops. And now I've got what I need to make an inner rim here, which I'll just use that gray color. You'll see that'll look nice, but again, got to kind of know your order of operations. So can't do that first. What I need to do is create another material, which is just a nice black. It's going to be my tire, or near black, and add it to the entire cylinder. And then I can add the nice rim in there. And maybe I'll resize it a little bit. It's a little giant. And now I can just duplicate those out. Take that, flip her around, sling it on over to the other side, and boom. I've got something that you probably would not want to use quite yet, but you get the general idea. That we made a truck of some kind, maybe a military truck, maybe a mail truck, maybe a garbage truck, and we made it pretty quickly using just a combination of a couple tools. So this was a quick tutorial on how to do low poly modeling for a car to really cut down on the amount of polygons and materials you need by just doing some really basic painting and shaping of a cube. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know, and thanks for watching.